because for me, there's so much freedom in just being a complete idiot. You just got to take so many risks, which I love.
Yeah.
I'm still one of these weird performers, although I have fear and even more fear as I've gotten older. I just love being fearless and having like no limitations on stage. And that to me was what that clown workshop or what clown allowed me to do, is just push the boundaries a little bit, but more so with physicality rather than words.
The following is a conversation with Christel Bartelse. She's an actor, comedian, writer, producer, clown, and teacher here at Humber College. In the podcast, we talk about finding your inner clown. I'm not talking about the creepy clown that watches you at 3 a.m. in the corner of your room. The clown that I'm talking about is about finding your inner fool, not being afraid to look stupid, pushing your limitations, and learning to laugh at yourself. I hope you enjoy the podcast. What up, fools? This is the Joe Pedrosa podcast, episode 41. Today I'm here with Christel Bartelse.
Hi.
Christel.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in. So Christel is my teacher here at Humber College. She teaches me slapstick, physical comedy. And I just wanted to say, like, you're the most, you've gave, like, the most advice of how to be a better performer. So, like, I really appreciate everything you tell me.
That's kind. I don't know what the other teachers are doing. So. Yeah.
You're like really like hard on it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like it's really helpful because like I'm trying to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's my job too. I want to make people better and also inspire them.
Yeah.
But also giving a lot of creative freedom at the same time.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing comedy for? Because you started off in Waterloo, right?
I grew up in Kitchener, but I have a background in dance.
Yeah.
So I was sort of always in dance. And then I knew at a certain point I really wanted to go into acting, theater. So after high school, I moved to Toronto and I went to theater school. And it was at theater school that I met a really close friend, and her and I just loved improv. Like, I didn't even know I was going to go in that direction. We always got in trouble in all of our classes because we were always joking around. We couldn't take anything serious.
Yeah.
We even had this musical theater class, and the thing is, I had a dance background. I was confident in my acting, but I could not sing. So in this musical theater class, every time her and I got up, like the rest of the class would be giggling. Like, it was so embarrassing for us because her and I couldn't sing, even though we had other talents. So we would just get up and like belt out Bon Jovi or all these inappropriate songs. We always got in trouble. And so then we had a Second City instructor come teach us improv. And it was from that I just fell in love with comedy and improv, and this whole new world opened up. So my friend and I made a pact that as soon as we graduated theater school, we would start doing our own 2-woman comedy shows. And then still while taking all these other classes, that's how I got introduced to clown, just by taking a workshop that I saw offered. So, my journey was like, I thought I was going to go this way, and then it took a whole new direction and kind of fell in love with that. Yeah, I felt like the same way when I was in high school. I was like, they didn't have any comedy things, they only had like drama, and like drama's cool and all, but like, I still like drama. I mean, right, but comedy's harder to do.
Yeah, comedy's harder to do. I think it's more fun to do. I was saying before the podcast started, like, about the comics curse,
Yeah.
Like, it's, we see the world, like, for what it is. Most people try to ignore it, but, like, we see it for what it is. We get angry about it, then we try to make a joke out of it. Like, you can either laugh or cry about what the world is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's a world of comedy for me, and also talking about the sense of clown, the art form of clown. You can see the absurd in everything. So I do believe, for the most part, although life is challenging, I do have a lot of joy in my life because I'm able to laugh at situations. Maybe not right away all the time, but I can always find the funny. But on that note, I was thinking, talking about comedy and getting into that. I'm currently working for a program where we teach comedy to kids. We go into schools, and at a very young age, we start introducing them to comedy and stand up and writing their own truth. And just doing that, I wish I had something like that as a kid, and even now, you guys being in school, I'm really going to, age and date myself. I just didn't have certain opportunities or the knowledge when I was also pursuing that. Like, we didn't have, for example, social media either, right? To make all these videos or all these things that are now accessible.
Yeah. So what did you do as a kid? Like when the hard times are coming,
As a kid?
Yeah. Because you wish you had that as a kid, right?
Yeah. I think I didn't think about it as a kid. Like I didn't know about it, but I did as a kid. Even though I was very shy, I always was writing sketches.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like more. I mean, this is kind of I always feel a classic like story maybe, but yeah, like I wrote sketches for my parents or for the neighbors. And my parents really pushed me. Like looking back now, I was the kid where my parents would have everyone over and they'd be like, Christel, do something. And I'd have to get up and tell a joke or do something silly, even though I was shy.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah. Or as I still have, there is a story. It's grade 3 and I don't remember much from grade school, but this stands out. And I wrote this little sketch that I performed. I can remember so many people watching this, and I was playing kind of a crazy lady putting on lipstick, and then I ran into the chalkboard and the lipstick went all over my face. You know, I don't know. It doesn't sound. But as someone in grade 3, how old are you in grade 3?
Like
8 or 9.
7 or 8, yeah.
But I can remember that sensation of everyone was in stitches, and everyone was just like, "Oh my god, this kid is hilarious." But that's sort of my first memory. But again, I didn't know what to do with it, and I was lucky to always be in the arts and drama classes and dance, but.
Yeah,
I didn't know where to take it as a kid, if that makes sense. Yeah,
a lot of people are kind of like lost, you know. But I feel like the thing you're gonna do in the future is what you naturally did as a child. You know?
Okay.
Because even when I was a kid, I was like, and I showed you like my first video in class. Me and my friends, I was like actually dumping the footage yesterday to my buddy. I was like showing him his girlfriend. I was like, I've been making videos since I was a kid, you know, just the entertainment aspect of like, and we didn't know what we were doing. We were just like fucking around and just doing whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, but that's really cool stuff. So you were talking about you were getting into clown. So you found a workshop. Was the workshop here in Toronto?
Yeah, it was at the Second City, the old Second City.
Whoa, the Second City had clown?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they still do.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'd like check all the classes.
No, because you were mentioning Ken Hall, and Ken Hall teaches clown there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a very good friend of mine, Andy, he was teaching a workshop called the Silent Comic.
Oh, okay.
As well, yeah.
Oh, because the Silent Comic, is that the same?
It's like exploring the basis of clown, like again, how to be funny through physicality and emotion.
Yeah.
But at the time, I mean, this is going back over 20 years, but yeah, my friend Christine and I, we just found this. It was a weekend intensive, I think, at the Second City. It was taught by Sue Morrison, who's a very renowned clown teacher, and you know, so many people that came up in clown back then had studied under Sue. Yeah, and we just took it on same thing. I knew nothing about it. Clown is one of those words, right? Like it terrifies people, it puts people off. People don't know what to expect. But I just took it, and for some reason it just spoke to me. Like, because for me there's so much freedom in just being a complete idiot. Like yeah, you just got to take so many risks, which I love.
Yeah.
I'm still one of these weird performers, although I have fear, and even more fear as I've gotten older, which is weird, or we can just talk more about that. I just loved being fearless and having like no limitations on stage. And that to me was what that clown workshop, or what clown allowed me to do, is just push the boundaries a little bit, but more so, with physicality rather than words.
Yeah. So when people think of clown, like they tend to think of like this entertainer at like a kid's birthday party. They think of scary, and a lot of people think it's scary, you know?
Yeah.
But when you were teaching me clown, finding your inner clown, like that's still something I'm trying to like wrap my head around, you know, finding your inner clown. So it's like genuinely, so for the people who don't really understand what clown is, what would you like, say finding your inner clown is?
I do believe everyone has an inner clown, but like as kids, we play. We don't think about playing. We all use our imagination, right? You can play for hours as a kid in your room, and we have tea parties and all these things. And then we get older and we become adults and we forget that sense of play. So for me, finding your inner clown is just finding that inner fool. Can we, it doesn't have to be kid-like, but can you go back and sort of that innocence, and just sort of find that playfulness, that fool. Ultimately comes down to, can you laugh at yourself? So taking what's funny about you and then really pushing that. And if you're able to laugh at yourself, right? That just already gives so much freedom because people take themselves way too serious.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, that's what it is for me. Just finding your inner fool, laughing at yourself.
Yeah.
Exploring that. It still is one of these things, people assume it's the birthday party clown.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I just had a good laugh because I'm teaching an upcoming clown intensive. And this is, again, for people of all levels that want to just explore physicality and play. And I did have someone write me that they wanted to take my workshop. And I just wanted to ask a little bit of background because I didn't know this person at all. And I said, do you have any previous acting experience? What's your background? And they don't have any. I said, okay. And then I said, well, what interests you about clown? And they said, I want to learn juggling and making animal balloons. And I was like, that's not what I'm doing, right? Like that just made me laugh. And I had to explain, and I had a whole description of sort of what we'll be exploring. And funny enough, they're still going to take it.
Oh,
but I did say, I'm not going to teach you juggling in 2 days. Not that I'm even a great juggler.
Yeah.
But everyone knows the red nose. It's the universal symbol. So everyone just, they see that. Like Toronto's got this thing. We see the red nose. We're sort of taken aback. But clown doesn't have to be that. I use it as a training tool, but there's so many great moments of clown or performers or actors that really are doing clown, and people don't even fully realize that.
Really?
Like, well, we've talked about this. Like, think of Robin Williams, the ultimate clown, right? Like, pushes it, no limitations. To me, he's one of the greatest clowns. And I mean that in a great sense, because clown's gotten a bad name too, right? We call politicians clown, or right? We use that all the time. What a clown, and it's got a different meaning.
Yeah. So, you're kind of talking about the being the fearlessness, the fearlessness in clown. You know what I mean? There's like some people in my improv for actors class. I'm taking it at Second City now,
cool.
And like. Because I missed the first class, I came late, so I was like just there for the second class.
You didn't come late.
Well, no, I was like, I was working.
Joe's always on time.
I was working like the first week, but I came the second week, and then someone was just like, you brought a lot of energy to the class, like. And the beginning of the semester, I was like not like that at all. I was like, I still had that thing of like, oh, I'm so afraid to look stupid right now. Like, what are people going to think of me? But then now I'm just like, who cares?
Yeah.
But there's still some people in my class that are just like, they have that, like, we were playing that game. It's just like, the improv game when you go around, you say a news headline. And then, and then the next person uses the last word as the first word.
Okay.
And then some people were like kind of hesitant, you know what I mean? And then there's just, or we were doing another one where we would like go around, and we would do a physicality, and then we would pass it on to someone. But then they'd be like not doing it as well, because I feel like they even mentioned the fearlessness, or like the fear of, I don't know, kind of looking stupid. So like, what would you say to people who are trying to get past that? Because it's really hard, especially in comedy and entertainment, because like in drama you could hide around, like there's a lot of like dramatic people that are like, like being serious.
Right.
But comedy's about looking stupid.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's what you said. Like it takes getting out of your comfort zone. And if we're just talking about you personally, Joe, like what you said, like you, and we've talked about this, and this is going to feel like a teacher moment, but you were very serious. Like you're a great student. You work really hard, but you were, that is what we can say. You were afraid to look silly. Yeah. Right. And then now you're sort of getting a little bit more out of that. And I don't know if I'm going to answer this, but what I say is, when you're doing a game like passing the physicality or that sound and gesture, I always think people look stupider when they hold back. Like if you're not really into it, or you're sort of holding back, or you're resistant. Personally, I think that makes you look stupider. But it's real. I agree with you. It's hard. Like, how do you let someone go? But it just gotta hit one day. Like, I just gotta go. I just gotta do this. Yeah. And then there is a freedom that comes with that. But it's a society thing. Everyone is so afraid of looking stupid or looking silly. But if you can get over that hurdle, there's so much freedom that comes with that. Yeah. But like an improv will help. Like people in your class, I don't know your class, but I hope that you even see after week that people maybe get a little more comfortable. I don't know. Yeah.
So for me, I don't know, this may be a bit nihilistic, but I think all comics are a bit cynics and nihilists. Like the fearlessness was like, well, if like all of this is kind of temporary, like
none of this is gonna matter in like 1,000 years. Like the world's been going for like 10 billion years. It's gonna be going for 10 billion years after.
Well, it might blow up, but yeah.
Yeah. But like the thought of like death, on like thinking about death on a daily basis, makes me realize like, well, none of this really matters. Like I'm not gonna, if I look stupid in front of people, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, I'm never gonna see, like, these people don't really, like, I don't, it might be a bit narcissistic, but like they don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So even anything I do is like, it doesn't really matter because like it's all nothing after.
Yeah.
You know? That's the fearlessness for me. But
well, I think we teeter and we play with that always. Like anything I create, there's like, I just got to go and do this. And then there's, I'm fucking terrified to go and do this. I live in that world all the time. I think as artists, creators, comics, actors, performers, we live in that.
Yeah.
You know, but I did have this great director, just on what you said, when I was creating a one-woman show, and I would get so stressed out or so freaked out or like, who's going to like this or is this going to work? And she used to always say that, play the deathbed game. And she used to always say,
Whoa.
just, is this going to matter when you're lying on your deathbed? When you're on your deathbed, is it going to matter, you know, that you couldn't find the right word in this moment to put in your script, or that you, you know, couldn't get the character right. And I sometimes still come back to that. And it's like the deathbed. Think about that. Is it going to matter?
Is there any moments of your life where you just like, you didn't think of that and then you like regretted it?
Like of holding back
Yeah,
or
like holding back. Like you're just like, oh, you know, I should do it. But then you're like, oh, no, never mind. I'm just...
you know,
You're just a risk taker.
No, it's funny. I love taking risks. Like, I know that I was someone in my 20s. Like I know when I was in theater school, I was the person. I don't know where that came from. And I just, there was something I loved about getting up. And again, it comes back to the sort of this art form of clown, even though I hadn't studied clown. It's just, I loved getting up and trying something, and I was okay if I fell on my face. Now, when I was younger, I would beat myself up. So I would take the risk. I'd always volunteer to go first. I always want to try stuff. And then I would do it. But if it did fail, I was kind of okay with that. But I would also like, I was that moody person, like for 3 days, I was a bit of a diva that was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, you know?
Yeah.
Now I'm a little bit more comfortable with trying something. Like, we got to try it to see if it works. But there is an interesting thing that's happened to me. There is also more fear sometimes. And I don't know if that comes from because I still care or because I have years of performing. Like I'm in this weird place now. Like I'm still afraid. I don't know if I'm even making sense, but I am afraid to fail still. But I always... there's something I like playing in that risk taking. I like getting up and trying something and seeing if it works. I don't know. That's what we got to do. But some people can't even do that. They're so afraid of failure they don't even want to try. You know, and in a class, because I teach so much, I'm always just trying to encourage my students. Like, we're in a classroom. This is our place to learn. And I go, just get up and try. But I'm really noticing the fear even in students. They're so afraid to get up in front of their classmates or themselves and get up and try. But if they don't do that, they're never going to learn. Yeah. You know, and they got to just get over it. That's the place to learn.
Yeah, there's this quote just like, a person who has never failed has made nothing.
Yeah.
You know? So like you need to kind of go through the whole ordeal of...
Absolutely.
Because like, how else are you going to learn?
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly.
You actually said a really good quote I think about all the time.
Oh my God, I'm going to get quoted now.
Yeah. You're just like, go out and just do it, because you either get a good story or a good time.
Oh yeah, I always say... Yeah, anything you do, like I still say yes to everything. Like my biggest problem and why I'm so busy and running around is I try and say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, there's also an empowerment where people go, you don't have to say yes to everyone. Like I kind of pick and choose now, and there's a lot of things I go, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I can't. No, it's not worth my time. But yeah, saying yes to everything. You get a good story out of it, or you do have a good time no matter what you do. Because if it goes drastically wrong or it's terrible... You know, like even these open mics. I went to an open mic.
You were on Tuesday.
I did go up on Tuesday. In all my history of Humber, like teaching at Humber, I had never gone up on Tuesday night at Yucks. No. And I'll talk about, I had such fear of doing that. And for years, I would always... I would message LL or whoever was running the Yuck Yucks room, and I'd be like, I think I want to go up. And I have the opportunity always to get a spot.
Yeah, of course.
And then I would back out. Like I just had such a fear. And then there's something that came over me. I'm kind of in that place on the Tuesday, and I went, I gotta go do it. So I actually messaged Andrew Clark being the program director of Humber, and I said, hey, can I get a spot? But I also feel sick writing you about this. So if I want to bail, like, what do I do? And he's like, I'll put your name down. If you want to bail, you can bail. And then the list went out, and I was like, see, now I can't bail. That is me. I'm very stubborn. I'm like, my name is on that list. I'm not bailing. And then I went and did it. And I just went, who cares? I just got to go. I have a set. I've worked on it. Just go for it.
Yeah.
But even I felt pretty good, but it's also a story. I have a story about that night, or I have a story about this open mic I went to another time where I just said yes. And it was like so many funny things happen, and it's a story now.
What's like your worst open mic? Like I've done. I don't know if I should say the name actually.
Maybe don't say the name. I don't know. Unless if it was a personal thing. I don't. But
okay, I'll bleep it right now.
Okay, I don't actually know.
Oh, you know? That was like my first open mic, and it was like my friend messaged me and was just like, oh, I'm hosting, but like I can't host anymore. Can you host? And I like just finished Second City. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And when I got there, it was just like a bunch of kind of like redneck dudes, like not listening and like heckling me and shit. And there's like the only people in the audience are my brothers, It was just like a chair and just like other comics.
Yeah.
And like I hit another open mic after that. And it was I'll bleep this out too.
Okay. Yeah.
I did that one, and then I wasn't up to like one.
Oh, okay.
And then it was just like a bunch of like 20-year-olds.
Yes.
And none of them laughed.
Okay.
And I was like, this is the most terrible feeling in the world.
Well, yeah. I mean, open mics are hard. I don't go to them that much because I just rather hone my set. I do such a mix of things. But yeah, open mics are definitely a hard scene, a hard situation. So I think we all have stories about those.
Yeah.
Because they're really challenging.
It is. It's really hard.
Yeah. I mean, my story of the open mic, and this happens often being a woman, I was literally the only woman. But also what happened was I arrived early, and these open mics, you have to arrive early and sign up. And I really wanted to go and try some new stuff. So I was the first one there. I know I was the first one there, but I couldn't see where to sign up. Like I couldn't see where the sheet was. And finally, a whole bunch of people started flooding in. And then I went up to someone. I was like, sorry, where do I sign up? And he goes, here's the list. And when I looked at the list, like 40 people had signed up.
Oh my god.
And he's like, you're going to be 41. I was like, I was here first. Like I knew, but I didn't know. And so that was actually also a lesson, like to go and to know who to talk to. But it was my first time at this one. And then I was the only woman.
Yeah.
So there was literally 40 male comics, probably all 20 years younger than me. And then I got up at the very end. Only a few people left, but I also felt very good about that one because with the 5 men that were left in the audience, they were very supportive, and I did get some laughs, but they were all talking about older women or things like that. And then I had to get up.
Yeah.
And my very good friend was running the tech. So when he saw me too, he's like, Christel, what are you doing here? Yeah. And I'm like, I just wanted to try this. He's like, I don't think this is for you. But I did it, you know?
Does he mean like that specific mic or just like?
Yeah, I think for him, like he's a tech regularly at this venue. So I think he just saw, that it can be possibly a little misogynistic, that it was all guys. I think he was just wondering what I was doing there. Yeah.
So doing comedy for like so long and being a woman, do you find it hard to do that? Because it's mainly a male-dominated industry.
Yeah, I mean, like I do such a mix. I don't primarily do stand-up comedy. Like that's just not my full focus at all. My thing is more comedic storytelling, character comedy. I've been doing this for a long time. I did sketch for a long time. I did improv. I still find it's challenging. I don't think that battle is finished with as being a woman. I think it's getting better.
Yeah, of course.
For sure. but yeah, I mean, I see it in the open mic scene for sure that it's way more men. I see it sometimes at our program.
Yeah.
You know, it's really sad to me sometimes when we don't have as much enrollment of women. When there's a lot of guys, I would love for more women to take the course. I don't know. I hope it's changing, but you know, in the storytelling community, which I do so much of, I don't find it's a problem there. I don't find there's this sort of hierarchy between men and women. That feels very even keel. So I think it also depends. I think it's just more of a stand-up thing. It's very male dominated. But I don't think all the arts, you know, it's a problem, I guess I would say.
Yeah, of course. So so I want to talk about storytelling for a little bit because you teach a storytelling like cohort kind of here?
Yeah,
you know,
for a
like,
couple of weeks. That course has evolved so much.
Okay.
It used to be taught by Melody and myself.
Oh, okay.
We used to do this intensive teaching, solo show creation storytelling. And it originally started by another instructor. And then, unfortunately, I won't get into it, but I don't think they can have two instructors teaching at the same time. It's sort of...
okay. You just like...
Well, it's sort
heads?
I think it's a budget thing. And
I see.
I don't know if they can pay us both at the same time for teaching one course together. But yeah, it's just evolved and it's changed. So, I mean, I teach storytelling outside of here, but what I'm trying to do, or what I've done the couple years at Humber, is sort of teach. Again, it's changed, but now I think last year it was a 7-week storytelling intensive. So just a taste of it, but introduction to storytelling, true personal tales.
Yeah.
And for me, because a lot of you guys want to be stand-up comedians, it's sort of branching out those jokes or taking something that's very vulnerable, very true from your life that's maybe a little uncomfortable to talk about. And I give all these prompts and stuff and really having to bare your soul on stage.
Yeah.
Because that's what people want to see is the vulnerability.
Yeah, humans are attracted to each other's rough edges.
Yeah. And it becomes universal. Not that everyone can relate personally to every moment of your story, but people can relate. Everyone's had a time where they've fallen down or, they've been the underdog or they've risen. Yeah.
And I feel like that's like a great way to process like negative emotions, you know, making it funny, making it into a story.
100%. Yeah.
So I'm really excited to take that class because like my main thing is filmmaking, and with making movies, I feel like vulnerability is such a huge factor because like it's easy to just like look cool, you know what I mean? But like really digging deep into like who you are as like a human being, you know, and like expressing that through film. Like I think that's like the greatest form of art.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Joe, I'm so enthralled with storytelling. Like I went, my journey has taken me everywhere. I love acting, performing, but it went from, sketch and improv, and then it went from these one-woman shows, and then I was really passionate about physical comedy and clown, but storytelling is totally my jam right now. And I love pushing the vulnerability, not again for shock value. I just love being as vulnerable. That's kind of as a artist where I am right now is like, how vulnerable can I be on stage? Well, still, keeping the audience safe, keeping myself safe. But it's just so beautiful to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And what I say is it always has to be safe in that. I mean, it can't be therapy. So we're not, I'm really uncomfortable when people are telling a story on stage that they're not yet comfortable to tell. Like that's sort of a golden rule. You have to have processed it. You have to be okay to talk about it, and then it's okay to share on stage. But if you're not there yet or you're not ready to talk about it, then don't do it.
Yeah. How would one process it?
Well, like, I don't know, actually going to therapy or when you're ready to talk about it, But like some people have had traumatic experiences. And again, if you've processed it, you're okay, you've moved on, it happened a long time ago, and you want to talk about something from that, that's fine. It doesn't mean you're not going to get a little emotional, but you don't want to crumble on stage. You're not processing it on stage as you're telling it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've like one thing I'm trying to process right now is the idea of rejection.
Okay.
Like I went on a date a couple weeks ago. It didn't work out, know. And I just felt I know.
What do they know? Yeah. They're lost.
Yeah, but just this idea of rejection, like it's just been, I'm like, wow, like this feeling of like not being good enough.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, like, obviously I did something wrong. Even though I think I did the right thing, I felt like I did something wrong to, like, get rejected. And it's just like...
But you don't know that. You don't know that. It
Yeah.
could be them.
Just this idea of just, like... getting over this like kind of loser mentality, you know. It's just like the thing I'm trying to do, especially I feel like your your 20s in general, it's just like about failing and being like feeling like a loser, you know. How do you get over that though?
But that's what your 20s are for. It's exploring that,
you just fuck no matter what in your 20s.
Well, like 20, oh god, it was a long time ago, but I love my 20s. Like it is for having fun and
Making
trying
as much
stuff,
mistakes.
trying as many things.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn from that, and you're gonna look back when you're older and go, oh my god, my
What's
20s.
the biggest lesson you learned in your 20s?
Oh, you know, it's almost like it's hard to answer that. It's more like looking back at my 20s, I don't know, I wish I had known this, if that makes sense, you know? Like it's hard when you're in your 20s because you don't have the information to know,
like,
right?
Nobody tells you.
So like, you know? I'll just, like, when you worry about these things or whatever, you're like, speaking of deathbed, it's so not going to matter when you're in your 30s, or it's not going to matter in your 40s, you know? So I would say, I think I worried about too many things in my 20s. Like maybe I took myself too serious.
Yeah, that's me right now.
Yeah, rather than just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And they're like golden years, your 20s, because everything is at your disposal. Like you're young, you can really go and do anything. Like, you know, you can go and travel. You don't have as much responsibility. So go and travel. Go try the thing. Go do this.
Okay.
And I think I was pretty good at that. But, you know, I regret I had my 20s. I was I'm not really a relationship person. I mean, I am now. I'm married, but I was in a really like serious relationship.
Yeah.
Which was so not like me. But I feel like that held me back a little bit.
Yeah.
And so speaking of, you know, love and relationship, like you don't need to get so tied down in your 20s. Like, you know,
because we're all like in the 20s, you're like evolving. You know? So it's just like you can start off as like the same thing, but like you can like shoot off in like to multiple different directions.
Absolutely.
Like who knows?
You're gonna change still so much. You know. So I'll tell the story. When I was in my 20s, I dated a much older person, and I was still evolving. And I obviously wasn't the person that I would come into being, right? And then years later, this person and I were talking, but they were so much older than me. It's gonna sound inappropriate, but so. They didn't change much, but I had changed so much. So I felt like when we talked, I was like, I can't even talk to you because I'm not at all anything like you thought I was. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, because I was in my 20s still, and I changed so much. So
this person, like, do you find when you get older, you don't change as much then?
It's not that you don't change, because I'm learning always, every day, and I'm changing. But I just think your 20s, you're really figuring things out, you know, like, now being so much older, it's like, sometimes I still, like, now I think I don't know it all. I'm actually more aware now. I know jack shit. Like, I love the person I've become, and all the things I've learned have shaped me, but I don't actually know anything. But if you, maybe you feel this way. In my 20s, I thought I knew everything. I really did. Like, I thought I knew everything.
I had like my whole life planned out.
Yeah, right? I remember being at this big Shakespeare intensive. I remember this so much. And I was probably 22.
Yeah.
And we all had to stand up. We had to say something really vulnerable. And at 22, I can remember, I thought I knew everything. I was so mature. I had done all these things. I thought, you know, and I stood up and I was like, I feel that I've got a really good head on my shoulders and I know everything. And I can remember the older adults started snickering. And I was like, why are they laughing? And I look back at that now and I'm like, who was I? Like, I had my head up my own ass to think at 22 I could stand up in this huge room and say, like, I know everything. And that's what I mean. I think in your 20s, you feel that way.
Yeah, I feel like there's just so much chaos in your 20s. So, like, we try to, at least for me, I try to create so much order.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, focus on my physical health, my mental health, my relationships, and my financials, you know, like create a mission and like just do that. Like my thing is like videos and podcasts, like just going all the way with it. But then like, you're kind of right of like, I might be wrong. Like who knows?
No, but like, I mean, someone like you, like this is the thing I look at now when I see 20-year-olds, like, you know, there's so many, because I work with so many students. So there's also so many 20-year-olds that I'm like, oh my God, they have no idea what they're doing. But there's so many 20-year-olds. I'm like, so inspired by them, and I'm like, look what they're accomplishing. Or, because I didn't have social media and all that, I'm like, look what they're able to do now. Or like with the world, they know, and they're so passionate. So I'm not saying at all like 20-year-olds don't know what the fuck they're doing, right? But I do look at you, Joan, and like you have such a good head on your shoulder. You work so hard. You know what you want to do. So that is good. Like that's awesome. It's just don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're gonna keep getting better as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're kind of right of just like, I don't know. Sometimes I doubt myself, because I'm like, I'm just at the beginning. You mentioned like you're just at the beginning of your career. You know what I mean? But I feel like I'm like Tarzan grabbing like different vines, like just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like a hard thing to do.
But I love, like I was talking to a student not too long ago.
Yeah.
Also, she was producing like her first show, like 20 years old, and then just got out of theater school. And she's like, I'm putting on my first show. I've written it. I'm going to produce it. I found a venue. And I was like, that's so awesome. And, I was gung ho in my 20s. I was also a complete wild child and lost. Like I had this weird balance of like pursuing comedy and acting, but also loving going out. And like I had all these late nights. Like I was also like, that's what I mean. I was like, do I want to do this or do I want to just be crazy and party all the time? Like I had to figure that out too.
Yeah, I feel like I went through all that partying thing already. And now I'm just like so rigid and like just trying to do comedy videos all the time. Yeah, you think that's fine?
Yeah, what like everyone do what you want to do.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you what
tell
to do.
me what to guide me, mentor me.
And but you're gonna learn. Like that's the only thing I can tell you. Like in your 30s, it'll be like, oh my God, remember that in my 20s. Like I look back at some things in my 20s, especially like with sketches, and even now, like some are like so hilarious. Like, did we actually write that, or what were we thinking? And then others, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so proud of that little nugget I came up with.
Yeah.
Like there's still a few things that I pull from stuff that Christine and I created, or I created on my own in my 20s, that I have now still taken that idea and evolved it and figured it out and used it now, almost 20 years later.
What lessons are you learning now and at this phase of your life?
I that the work never stops. I'm just someone, I've got a lot of people that like laugh at me. Just like I'm still hustling. Like there's moments where I'm, I have a lot of energy, which I think is great, and I hope it stays with me for a long time. I am getting a little more tired. I've been at this for a long time. But yeah, just the work never stops. Just keep going. I think that's the biggest thing I see. Like some people they stop. They just go, I can't do this anymore. And I do think I'm someone that's going to forever persevere, even though it's had its challenges and things don't always work out. I've really kind of carved my own path. I beat myself up a lot that I'm not where I thought I would be. That's something I'm always figuring out or struggling. So I'm still very hard on myself. I admit that. I'm trying to get better at that. I was telling you, like in my 20s, I would be mad and beat myself up. I think I can let things go a little easier now. But, I did a show the other night. I flubbed one word in this like slick story I'd rehearsed. I flubbed one word. And it was the first time in a while. And I came out, I was so mad. I was like, that one word, it wasn't perfect. I can't believe it. And again, then I had to go like, the audience probably did not really notice. Yeah. So I'm kind of telling you, I'm way too hard on myself. So I'm still trying to learn that, but also just to keep going. And always figuring out, and things are always changing, right? Like now the big thing is social media. Like people are making TikTok videos. I'm still not there yet. Like I'm just such a sucker for just live, the stage. I just love it. I love it in that moment, being in front of a live audience. I just love that so much.
I feel like I love the stage as well. But, like, I get what you mean. Because, like, videos and podcasts have more leverage. Yeah. Because it's, like, scalable with the internet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah. But I do, like, I don't know. If I were to put, like, 80-20, I'd put, like, 80 into videos and podcasts and, like, 20 into the stage. Because, like, when we did the student show, like, the end, like, the Chippendales thing, like, it got huge pops. And you just feel this, like, level of dopamine just in your head.
Absolutely,
just, like, this good feeling. And I'm like, whoa, is this what, like, comics chase?
Yeah.
Like, this is the feeling, Yeah, it's just, like, such a crazy thing to me. It's really cool.
Okay. Well, I just always say, regardless, like, just keep creating. And that's where I am now.
Yeah.
So even myself, like, as long as everything I do, and it's hard. Like I feel I have more responsibility and I have other things to take care of life. Not that you don't in your 20s, but everything has to be in sort of a creative way. Like I just always find ways to be creative, and that doesn't always have to be, sitting down and writing or doing a show. Like sometimes I get I'm like, I'm going to try something new for dinner. I'm going to make that tonight. Or I'm going to rearrange stuff in my house and change it up and be creative that way. I just believe so hard in being creative. That's just something that's so important to me. And to keep going and to I still am finding stage time all the time, just because I enjoy doing shows. And the big thing I'm tackling right now is things that do terrify me. Like I'm kind of in this place right now, which I go, what fucking terrifies me? Then that's why I did Yucks on Tuesday. I was like, why does that scare me so much? I'm going to go do it. I just want to get over that fear. I don't want to ever be comfortable and just be like, okay, I'm good. I still like teetering with that,
Would you say that's your biggest fear, the open mic game?
I think for me, it's weird being a teacher, especially at Humber Comedy, and then going and doing a set in front of my students.
Oh, okay.
That's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why I can't get over that, because I also think the students need to see me as a real person.
Oh, okay.
Like it's like I've got teacher hat, student hat, but it's like ultimately we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And when you guys graduate, like we're all colleagues. I don't see it as teacher student. We're all in this big world of pursuing and being artists and doing our thing. But there's just something that holds me back. And I have a lot of jokes. When I say I have jokes about students, it's not terrible things, but that's my experience of being a teacher and working with students. Like that's a lot where I write from, because that's a big part of my life. Mm-hmm. So I do have this fear a little bit, even though I think it's fun and it's playful. And I know so many students would be like, that's great, or that's a greght joke. I always worry that someone might be like, oh my God, she said that. I don't know, there's backlash. It's a weird thing, but I have fear around that.
Yeah. Do you think it's like when you're a teacher, there's like an authority type of thing, but when you're out in the real world or doing open mics, it's just like you're a real person.
Yeah, I'm totally. Yeah, I am a real person. Yeah. Like we all wear different hats.
This level of kind of I don't know how to call it, like low status, high status, maybe.
Yeah,
that would be.
Like I don't like that power trip either. Like I don't think I teach from a place of like listen to me, But I do believe I have something to offer, but that's also why I run my class, because I think you guys are all smart and intelligent. Like I really try and encourage you guys when we're giving feedback. And I have to be careful. It has to be in a constructive way, but I think you guys all need to train your brain and see things to know what you like. So when someone gets up and performs something, that's why I'm like, what did you guys think? Right? So people that are like, I don't know. Well, you have to start forming opinions. That's what comedy is too, right? You have to have strong opinions. So you need to watch someone also and go, I really like their performance, or I didn't like their performance, but you can't just say why you didn't like it. Like, what did you not like about it?
Yeah.
And is it enough to just go, I don't know, I didn't like it? Like, let's get a little smarter with that. Like, but why did you not like it? So,
that's very interesting.
Yeah. So, so like coming back to the authority thing. So when I go and do an open mic, I want to have the freedom to also, again, say what I want to say or talk about what I want to talk without seeing a student out in the room with their arms crossed or going like, this is my teacher. I don't want them to see me as their teacher. I want them to see me as like, oh, who's this next comic going up?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but it's, but it's a weird thing.
Yeah, I kind of had that fear in the beginning of the semester as well, of just like, oh, they're not going to like me because, like, I play a character on stage.
Okay.
It's just, it's not, we all kind of are.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like, my thing came from Family Feud.
Okay.
So,
right.
Yeah, they wrote, like, they didn't write it directly, but, like, they kind of, like, shaped it in a way of, like the womanizer who can't fall in love.
Okay.
That's like the whole
great.
bit.
Yeah.
Of like, cause like Jerry D, he was just like, oh Joe, you're a very good looking guy, you work out. Tell me why you're single. And I was like, Jerry, I think your early 20s is about exploring life. I think the same thing to do with women, so I'm trying to explore every type of woman.
Yeah.
Like, call me ladies if you're interested. And then I was like, he asked the girl on the other team, like, oh, would you find Joe attractive? We like set up this date on stage.
Like with the other team?
Yeah.
Someone from the other team wanted to have a date with you?
Yeah, like he was setting it up. He's like, we can go to Brampton, Rose Theater. You can open for me, Joe. And then after, he's like, I'll pay for it. And then like towards the end of it, she kind of rejected me. So then the rejection is what made it funny.
Okay.
So then
and was that planned, or
she
actually rejected you?
like we're all kind of playing.
Okay.
Like I don't think any of it was like real. You know what I mean? But then I was like, that's kind of funny. So I played that on stage. But then I'm like, oh my god, I feel like some people in this program hate me because like it's kind of like it's not full misogynistic, but it's kind of like Barney Stinson would be like the perfect model to do that, you know what I mean? I'm like, I asked Vern, I was like, hey Vern, just to let you know, this is like a bit, and she was, then they're just like, yeah, I know, like I find it really funny, but I don't know, I felt that same feeling of just like, I don't know, like people are not gonna like me.
Yeah, but you're not like that in real life, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to also figure that out as well,
yeah,
you know,
character.
And it's interesting because sometimes audience members, they feel they know everything about you because, you know, they've watched you or they've seen you, listened to you so much, so they think they know you. But you know, but that's also something you just have to get over.
Yeah, it's all like a caricature, right, of who you really are.
You know, I mean, and then I would say with like stand-up comedy, there's a little bit of layer. There's truth, but it's also a little bit more embellished, or people are playing a persona or a character. Whereas in storytelling, for the most part, it is very true. So I have also you know, the odd detail or whatever I embellish, but I'm telling truths, like really true things from my life. And so sometimes I find people, again, the audience feels they know everything about me. You know, and that's been my choice. I've really spewed a lot on stage, but then people go, because I know this about you, I really like that story because, you know, like, it's just it's all about making, like, we're choosing to be vulnerable, I guess.
Of course.
Yeah.
So talking about truth and storytelling and stand up, is there like an ultimate truth you've realized looking back at your life that you have?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, like that I always talk about, or I'm like
kind of maybe like a mantra of like that you like. I have like where's my phone? I got like a bunch of fortune cookies.
Oh, I like fortune cookies.
And it's just like just truth. Every time like I realize the truth, I kind of write it down, you know? Like, I think my life's, like, I think if we live long enough, we'll become philosophers.
Okay.
Because, like, we're living with these truths that we just realized.
Yeah.
But is there one that, like, kind of encapsulates you?
I just work really hard to sort of be true to myself. I know that sounds very broad. I think more so than my truth, like, when I'm creating my own work, like a one-woman show, I have my own like core values or what I want it to be. You know, I want it to have heart. I want it to have sort of a universal message. I want the audience to be entertained. I'm in a place right now where I just think the world is so dark that I just really want to entertain. I want to be light right now. I want things to be funny, to be light. That's just where I am. So more so than the one truth, I'm more interested in like what are themes now. Like I'm more exploring like the things that I want to talk about on stage right now. So for me, like aging is a big thing right now. So even though I'm not that old, my theme right now is talking about aging. So bringing that truth. I do a lot of material as a woman who doesn't have children, but who's always felt that.
You get 20 new children a year.
I know. I know. My students are my kids, but yeah, exactly. But having that pressure, like all of the pressure I've been put through to have kids, and then I don't have kids. So it's more like, I don't know if I'm answering your question. It's more the themes and the things I want to talk about on stage, which has also totally evolved as well. In my 20s, I probably talked about...
what do you talk about in your 20s?
Dating.
Yeah.
Dating.
It's like my thing right now, too.
One-night stands, partying, you know, after-hour clubs, like all the things that I did. And then it changes, and in 30s, I was more in a committed relationship. I eventually got married in my mid-30s. There was a lot of material about weddings, being engaged, right?
Yeah.
So So I'm always interested, and that's what I talk about in storytelling, or when I start a one-woman show, what's going on in my life? Like what's going on right now, what I want to talk about, what I want to write about, But coming back to that big, it's just being true to myself, like not, and the hardest one, which I'm not at, Joe, but I try, is not trying to please everyone. Like I'm not trying to create I'm trying to create to be true to myself and see where it lands, rather than writing for an audience just to make them, I don't know, satisfied.
Feel good and satisfied. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on aging? Like what ideas have you come from?
Well, right now I'm working on a whole new one-woman show, which is called A Woman of My Age. I'm also working on this podcast, and I have a new show, which it's a one night. It's kind of a pilot project.
Okay.
It's called Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. And where this all came from is because I'm doing so many things, and I'm like, I can't have everything on a different theme. So because I was writing this one-woman show about aging, I'm like, I want to try this pilot project, which basically I'm bringing veteran performers together. Martha Chavez is going to be on it. And it's these veteran performers. We've all been doing this for a long time, but also giving them stage time, because all these veteran performers, sure, they still get stage time right now because they're amazing, but it does kind of change or dwindle, or like younger people that are producing shows don't want older people on because they're like, who's this person? So it's all exploring that. And then on the topic of age, and for this one night that I'm doing, we're going to take the audio clips of everyone, and then we're going to make a podcast. I'm going to interview them on age. Yeah. So, but for me, like age is a big thing because I am aging. I'm very close to my parents. My parents are getting older. It's fear of death. It's fear of not being able to do what I once did, like even being a physical performer, which before I could do, 2-week run and be fine. Now it's like I can do a really physical 15-minute set, and I'm just saying, like, I feel it the next day. Like it's just, and I can still do it, but it's like that thing of waking up the next morning and going, really? I just did that like character or that mask piece I've always done. Like, why is my back this sore? And then also I'm exploring, because I am someone who's older but has energy. It's also exploring that stigma. Like I feel still in my 20s. I really do. I mean, I'm not saying I look it, but I like act. I just act sometimes like I'm still in my 20s. I have that energy. So it's also, I think a lot of people, once they get in their 40s, they're like, oh, I'm so old. And I just don't have that attitude. And I also see 75-year-olds and I'm like, oh my God, they're so young. Right? So that's another thing I can just tell you. In your 20s, you think a 40-year-old is so old. But when you're 40, you're like, oh my God, it's not old. I want to apologize to my own self at 20 thinking 40 was old. And look at these 75, 80-year-olds that still have so much energy. So it's a lot on aging. And as a woman, again, same thing. It's like you start to become invisible as an aging woman in society.
Yeah. So what would you say would be like the best way to keep that youthful energy? Because it seems like a clown plays a big role, like finding your inner child and keeping that sense of curiosity.
I'd say never stop learning, innocence, playfulness, being able to laugh at yourself. Good sense of humor. I mean, I do laugh all the time. I love laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's also why I love comedy. Just not taking life so serious.
Yeah.
Being present. Like, I do think, speaking of aging, I fear so much, like, for that day that's going to come, and I have to remind myself, like, be present. Like, we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, right? It's so cliche, but like really just living in the moment.
Yeah. When did you start thinking about death? Like in your 20s or just
no?
Oh,
in my 20s, I was immortal. Like, I didn't even think about it.
Like, live forever.
No, it's a new thing that's like really become like stronger in the past, kind of couple years, but probably in the past year. I don't think about it all the time, but I definitely know I have a fear around it. Also probably because there's still so much I want to do, I feel like I'm not going anywhere.
Of course.
What can I knock on? But just, that's what I mean. And how time flies. Like, you being in your 20s, like when you're asking me about my 20s, I think I commented earlier. I was like, oh my God, it was so long ago. But I also go, wait, that felt like last week.
Oh,
like,
really?
Like time flies. Like it's also like I was 25 and then what happened, and to have something like 5 years passed or 10 years passed. And I'm of this age now where still at auditions or comedy shows or wherever I go, I run into people. And I feel so fortunate. I know so many awesome people, but sometimes I'll see someone, I'll be like, we've been at this for 20 years. Like, it's, you just go, oh my God, I remember when we were in our 20s and we were like doing this show, whatever, at the SoCap, which I don't even know how long that exists, but like all these little venues or, I was at the Rivoli last night doing my show. I did one of my first shows there when I was 20, and I'm now still doing a show at the Rivoli, totally different place in my life, but it's also like, that's so weird that I was in that green room,
20 years ago,
so crazy. Yeah.
We have about 5 minutes left on the podcast.
Was I talking too much?
No, of course not. But I like to ask my guests these questions before it ends. It's kind of like a two-parter.
Yeah.
Do you think there's like a bigger meaning to life? In a very is this what it's like being in your 20s?
Coffee.
You're like thinking about it. Do you think about this stuff in your 20s, or is this just like a me personal thing?
No, I think it's also a you personal thing. No, of course. I don't know. I'm thinking about life all the time, but I think I've said it.
Is there like a universal meaning, you think?
No, I mean, sometimes I think we're all in some kind of, simulation, 100%.
Like The Sims or like a bunch of aliens?
Yeah, I do think that once in a while, something. But no, I just think, again, I just want to say, and I don't know if it's answering that question. I just think I really try to live my life like this, like just to enjoy every moment. Again,
presentism.
Yeah, just be present, enjoy every moment. I feel so lucky to be, to have this life, to get to do so many fun things. I really try to make life so fun. And I think I just experienced a lot of joy because of that. So I just think, just to remember that you've got one life, so do with it what you can, but also you got to enjoy it because it flies by. Yeah,
you seem to have lived like such a fulfilling life, and it kind of inspires me because like I get doubts of making it in this industry, but like just hearing your whole story, makes me feel better. I'm like, it's possible, it's possible to do what you love.
Of course it's possible. It's possible to do anything. But, I mean, it hasn't been easy. And like I said, I mean, there's so many... I wish I had so many of these other breaks, and there's so many things I thought would happen to me. And like I said, I can be so hard on myself, but I also come back and I have to take these moments to be so proud of myself that I've kept going. I'm still always doing shows. I'm always writing. I'm always creating. And that would be another thing. Like if it's not working out the way you want it to, just forge your own path.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah, I know you are. I think it's amazing. You guys can't, this is all your own equipment. This is awesome. I didn't know how to do this at all in my I still don't know how to run this board.
What advice would you have to people who are kind of like lost and not fully living, like to live a fulfilling, a meaningful, a purposeful life?
Well, I think you got to find a passion. I think you got to find something that you enjoy, whether that's, I don't know, even a relationship that you're really excited about. That's great. The place where you're living, I think your environment. So if you're not happy, like, I don't know, the city where you're living.
Just get up and move.
Well, I know these are things, it's not easy, especially like I know in this economy, but you also... if you're not happy, if you're really not happy, I find you've got to find a way to change something, and I know there's a lot of limitations and, for me, it feels like it always comes down to money, but there's things to do or to be possible to start making small changes because to live a more, I don't know, happy, fulfilling life. Yeah.
Of course. Cool. That's a perfect way to end the podcast, Christel. Do you have anything to plug before?
May 22nd, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number at the Burdock. Check that out, Burdock Brewery. Great little location. Martha Chavez, Paul Hutchison, Matt Barham, Naomi Sneakus, and Janice Israeloff. It's going to be an amazing show. 8 o'clock.
Cool. And your clown intensive?
Yeah, my clown intensive is May 25th and May 26th. It's called Finding Your Inner Fool. It's 2 days if you're interested in any physical comedy clown workshop. I have 2 spots left. So, and that's 10 till 4 both days. And I will so guide you through, and it's a lot of fun.
Cool. And your socials, the last thing?
So Instagram at @CBartelse. You can find me on Facebook. I used to be on X. I'm sort of on there. I've kind of like, I creep X and read about it, but I don't really post anything on that anymore. Yeah, it got weird for me when it went from Twitter to X.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Everyone's
not.
just outraged.
And then I know there's Threads, but yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you so much for watching the podcast. Stay on Average Fools.